Okay, so showed you the top of the engine. Now we're getting into kind of the thick of the mess here. Show you kind of front to back what's going on with this truck. If you get up here in the front, Jeff, why don't you show them that leak?
This is the leak I was talking about on the top. It seems to be coming from this weld where they scabbed this pipe together. Looks like it was MIG weld. Generally something like that you're going to want to TIG or use some kind of solder that'll flow better. You can get it with a MIG, but it's sometimes hit and miss, so unless you thoroughly test it.
You can see that fan shroud misaligned.
Yeah.
Pretty good shot of that. There's a good couple inches and it's hanging out a good inch.
The oil cooler line's draped across the steering gear. You can see it's starting to, truck hasn't even really ran and it's already chafing the outer jacket. You know, you bust a hole in that, you're going to pump all your oil out onto the ground. Another thing that's going to strand a customer. Instead of making brackets, they just, you know, zip tied it. Generally, something this important, you'd want to make a nice bracket to retain it.
Check out those motor mounts here.
Yeah.
Motor mounts, if you look right here, you've got some really shoddy welds. You can see there's missing this piece right here. You don't have full penetration. You can kind of see how it bubbles up there. It's a sign of it not having full penetration. Even worse than that, you've got, what is it, literally 2 bolts on this side, missing a bolt there. Then coming over to the other side, it's even worse. And what it appears to have happened here is they originally designed this guy with 3 bolt holes here. You can see this one right here. Back up all the way. So you can see this one right here, here, and here. And there's 3 different bolts here, so I'm thinking what happened is they possibly just made the mistake of flipping the bracket upside down and then realized their mistake, popped a couple more holes in there. Secondly, the issue here is you don't have full threads on here. It's missing about a thread, and ideally you want to have a couple threads coming out on the outside. So the shorter the bolts here, let's see, you've got this line over here. You can see your ground line. This ground line is literally zip tied to the pan. The original system has a really nice cover that goes across here, snaps in place. There's absolutely no way that that's going to go anywhere. Figure a little bit of wear on that zip tie, this thing's going to come off, rip through here, possibly ground out your whole engine, your ECM, your electronics, fry a lot of stuff, do a lot of serious damage.
The exhaust.
Oh yeah, you got quite a few more zip ties over here. Just kind of following it back. Coming over to the exhaust.
Well, this is kind of a big deal, and I have seen this. They were missing the inspection plate from the front of the transmission bell housing. It's an off-road vehicle, so rocks can easily enter, and when that thing's spinning 3,000–4,000 RPMs, any kind of rock hits there, it's going to come out like a missile and blow apart your bell housing, which I have seen, or this cast aluminum oil pan. Don't really know why that's missing, but it's not something you're going to want to send down the road. This drive shaft, I took the time to measure the angles. They got a couple of pretty gnarly compound angles going, which is something you generally want to avoid. With this particular vehicle, you're going to get somewhat of a compound angle, but this is never going to work. My best estimate now is that this carrier bearing has to come up at least 1.5 inches, which you can see there's going to be some interference with the motor, so this is going to have to be configured differently. It's definitely going to cause a vibration if it ever gets going down the road. And moving on to the mummified exhaust system, very small head pipe.
Keep in mind you're running a big block 8.1 liter engine. It needs to move some serious exhaust through here. And what you have is 2.5 exits out of the headers. And so you got dual exits out of the headers coming into a Y pipe, and they run it through a 2.5-inch straight pipe back. The issue with that is just some severe restriction, a lot of heat buildup, possibly some fire hazard down the road.
It's got a few mounting issues too. Not sure what happened. Obviously they weren't finished, or maybe they were. It's not what I would call finished. So then, I have some issue with, I scanned it on the TCM, and for some reason on this transmission, in two detent positions, the TCM showing reverse. There's obviously some kind of wiring issue. Could be the gear selector switch, but problem with it is to even remove it. If we did have to replace it, they decided to weld the nut.
Yes, sir.
To the shaft.
All right, Governor, we'll have your truck ready
And
24 hours. Thanks, sir. Bye.
I have to grind this weld away. I mean, this component may have to be replaced someday. You go and weld the shaft on, you know, some guy that normally might have been capable of replacing this. Now he's going to have all kinds of trouble trying to fix it. And then they welded a temperature sensor into the pan. There's pipe taps in the Allison transmission where you wouldn't have to do this. I'm not sure the reasoning behind that. Over here, the original, the vehicle doesn't run. I found the fuel pump doesn't work. Fairly easy fix, so I removed it. This is their regulator and hose setup. You know, just kind of hanging everywhere, dangling.
This cross member right here, again, really shoddy work, especially for a company that supposedly manufactures Hummer parts. We've even looking at, come over here on this side. You can see from this angle here, this thing is not even level. I mean, it's sitting down 10, 15 degrees. It's just, why? It's supposed to be level. So you've got this mount right here that's going to prematurely wear out.
That's not even the correct mount for the transmission. They used the 4L80 mount and adapted it with a plate to the Allison.
And you've got half a dozen to a dozen washers on the top side. You can see that.
Yeah.
Right there. On both sides.
Obviously they didn't want to waste any material in their shop because this looks like they made it out of scrap laying on the floor. Thing that we would put in the recycling bin. They built a cross member out of. So I guess you can hand it to them for their ingenuity.
So here's just a comparison of what we do. This is a quality of work that should have been taken on this truck. As you can see here, this is a correct cross member that's designed out for the Allison. This is something that we do in shop, in the house. You can see these welds have full penetration. Just compare that to the complexity, and it's just completely incorrect as well, especially coming from a shop that apparently does these type of conversions, Duramax Cummins conversions. I guess that's what to expect from them.
Yeah, these bolts are just, you know, I'm not sure that they're even grabbing all the threads, just barely popped through.